It was in Dham, that's a place near Nainital. In the session, I was sitting on my chair and the session kept meandering. And it was when I got up that I realized that my footwear was full of blood. I'm not pointing at a miracle or something. The body knew that it is nothing. Man finds everything stupid. The rabbit is stupid because it slept. The tortoise is stupid because it's slow. Show me one thing in the universe that is not stupid to the ego. Even if you are absolutely broken, you don't go anywhere. All problems originate from a certain premise, a certain assumption. The assumption itself is false. The assumption is wisdom is meant to demolish many things. Among them, that wisdom is a thing. There is actually nothing called spirituality. The moment you call spirituality as something, it becomes a way or a direction or a path or a sector or a field. Which means you cannot have images of the spiritual person. Images would require a particular kind of appearance or action. No appearance is spiritual, no action is spiritual. Today the Gita brings up the example of various kings who were established in wisdom and yet continued to remain kings and be engaged with the affairs of the kingdom. That is not to give you an idea that a spiritual person is like a king. That is also not to give you an idea that the spiritual person keeps carrying on his duties like before and like everybody else. That example is rather meant to challenge the idea that spirituality equals renunciation in the usual sense of the word renunciation. Are you getting it? What is the entire inner education about, that which we call as wisdom studies or more commonly spirituality? What is this entire inner education about? It is about knowing the validity of the self. What's in the dock? The self, the ego. What's being questioned, investigated, examined? The ego. Not Prakriti. Not Prakriti. And that's the confusion that often prevails. When ego is accepted as it usually is, it is accepted as the truth. The ego is real. The ego is the true self. That's how the ego is accepted, right? There is indeed something legitimate called I inside. That's how the ego is accepted. That's one end of the error. The other end is that when ego is rejected, in the name of rejecting ego, Prakriti is rejected. When ego is accepted, it is accepted as the truth. That's one side of the possible error, right? If I'm thinking of something, it must have certain validity. I saw something, so definitely it is the truth. Please honor my emotions, for they are mine. That's how ego is accepted, and here it's being taken as the truth. That's one side of the error. The other side is you want to drop the ego. The ego wants to drop itself, which it would never do, except in the case of self-knowledge. For the ego, its own being is precious. It would not drop it. What does the ego have primarily? The ego itself. Why would the ego drop the ego? So renunciation is some kind of a spiritual joke. It's never going to happen. Right? But because, you are some kind of a religious man, therefore you ought to renounce. So the ego, while remaining itself, while sustaining itself, would drop Prakriti. And that's a big mistake. How did the error start? I am the truth. I am the truth. But somehow it was impressed upon you that there is something wrong with your calculation, with your model, with the belief. And a proof was displayed. The proof was suffering. See, if your inner model is actually valid, why do you suffer so much? So the ego is forced to reconsider. Suffering makes the ego reconsider something at least. So what does it reconsider? Not itself, but its objects. Not itself, but its object. So the ego still remains the truth. But because there is suffering, so it has to be logically admitted there must be something amiss. The situation involves two, the ego and its objects. In normal times, in agreeable and happy times, the ego is the truth and the objects are all beautiful and juicy. That's how the ego would want it to remain infinitely, right? The ego is the truth and all my objects are nice, colorful, benevolent. But that's not how it turns out. The ego experiences suffering. When suffering is experienced, something has to be admitted as ajar, right? Heads have to roll. In a system, something very unacceptable is being experienced. So, fault has to be allotted. Blame has to be laid somewhere. Heads have to roll. Somebody has to be fired. Now, obviously, the founder CEO won't fire himself. Who is the founder CEO? And the system has gone bonkers. So, logic demands that you display some correction. What's the correction then displayed? Drop the objects. And that's the spiritual man. Drop the objects. This object, that object, depending on what kind of damage has been experienced in the organization. Marketing can be renounced. Finance can be dropped. But the CEO will remain firm at the center. I am the truth. The blame is laid at somebody else's door. That's renunciation. That's renunciation. But the whole spiritual discipline is not at all about being interested in Prakriti. Inquiry must have a laser sharp focus. Inquiry is all about I, the self, the ego. And the ego would not want that. So it distracts. It wants to make the inquiry look somewhere else. You get this? That's what the verse today is attempting to counter. No. Don't try to drop this. Don't try to gain that. It's not about this or that at all. It's about you or I, whatever. It's not about dropping your kingdom. It's as much not about dropping your kingdom as it is not about gaining a kingdom. Just as spirituality mocks at your naive attempts to gain fulfillment through a kingdom, it similarly smirks when you want to gain fulfillment through sacrificing a kingdom. Gaining a kingdom would not render the gainer invisible, or would it? In fact, the one who has gained a kingdom would be more visible, more present, more important, more significant now, right? Similarly, dropping a kingdom would not render the dropper insignificant. And you have to be very, very clear on this, because most of us are not. It's not about fighting with Prakriti, just as it is not about groping, clutching at Prakriti. Similarly, it is not about being indifferent to Prakriti, turning your back away, and having a particular spiritual attitude. What's the spiritual attitude? Oh, all this is nonsense. This is just Mohamaya, dust. It's not about that. So what is it about then? It is about nothing. Spirituality is about nothing in particular when it comes to the world, when it comes to Prakriti, when it comes to affairs of life. Spirituality, inner education, that's the word we should be using more often, because spirituality is too loaded, too corrupted a word now. Inner education is still a bit spared of lok-dharmic nonsense. It is not about anything. It is about the negation of anything that the ego considers important for its fulfillment. Here Arjun is on the verge of running away, so the example being given is of kings who remained at the hem and never ran away. So who's being quoted? Janak. Janak, most probably of Ashtavakra fame. And see, he was an Atmagyani, and still he remained in his palace. He saw even dropping as futile. That it is pointless dropping stuff. No, this is not a prescription. This is a negation. You must understand the question this verse is answering. The question is named Arjun. And Arjun here is trying to become a lok-dharmic kind of renunciate. What is he saying? Okay, tata, bye-bye. All this bloodshed and this ambition and Game of Thrones is not for me. I'm going. Because he is saying I'm going. So to negate the direction, the belief, the center of the ego, a particular example is being quoted. Getting it? Inner education is about nothing in particular. There is the world, there is the individual, and the ego is not needed to conduct their mutual affair. That's the game, that's all. There is the world, there is the individual, and the ego exists just to divide the two. Otherwise, the world and the individual are aspects of the same reality. No division, no suffering. But the ego in the individual makes the individual feel divided, separated. And then the individual faces a lot of impossible problems. Because the starting point itself is false. All problems originate from a certain premise, a certain assumption. The assumption itself is false. The assumption is all problems are to me. I am problemed. I exist and therefore I have problems. And these problems cannot be solved. You can keep trying all kinds of novel ways, smart ways, innovative ways, scientific ways, technological ways, political ways, social ways, religious ways, this way, that way. You can try whatever you want to try. The central problem is that the one experiencing the problem is false, but would remain. The ego is the mother problem. Solving any other problem won't help. Are you getting this? Don't fight Prakriti. Instead, watch your attempts to appropriate Prakriti, to control it, to consume it. To own it, or to condemn it. Prakriti is not the problem. The ego is. The ego is. And Prakriti is everything. Everything. You see, the existence of the individual in the world does not constitute duality. These two can exist, and still it could be non-dualistic. Duality comes into the picture not through the physical existence of the individual, but through the psychological existence of the ego. Just because you are sitting here as a particular configuration of flesh and bones does not automatically mean that you stand separated from the earth or the universe. It is possible to sit here and look like a separate individual. As you sit here, obviously you look divided from her and she looks divided from her, and there is a certain distinction, right? It does not seem that you are arising from this earth. We know you are sitting on the earth and there is a physical boundary. But that boundary does not constitute duality. Duality is not about physical distinction or physical two-ness. Duality is a psychological two-ness. So you could sit on the earth and the situation could still be advaitic, non-dualistic. If psychologically the ego does not exist, remember your problems are not physical. Remember, even when the physical body faces the problem, it is the ego that shouts. Remember that when the physical body faces problems, it is often because of the ego. Also remember that in absence of the ego, when the physical body faces problems, the physical body already knows how to respond. Your problems are all inner, psychological. And ego is the psychological separation between you and your neighbor, between you and your God, between you and the universe, between you and other species. That's what the ego is. I am distinct. Just being embodied does not render you dualistic. No, not necessarily. And if that is to happen necessarily, then this entire education is worthless. Because we can keep talking endlessly, yet the ego will remain as a law, as a principle. If the existence of this separated body were to be necessarily the existence of the separated ego, then what's the point of the Gita or anything? The ego will remain by virtue of the body. But it is possible for the body to be there and yet the ego to be seen. The body is there, yet it's a self-seeing ego. And therefore it's a self-correcting, and more accurately, it's a self-removing ego. That's the austere way of putting it. A self-seeing ego is a self-correcting ego, which is a self-removing ego. Now the ego is, and yet it is not. Because it exists to see itself. And when it sees itself, it can no longer be the same thing that we call as ego. If we want to play with words and twist and still say, but the ego still is, then it is a special quality of ego. Then it is another dimension of ego. It is no more the ego that sits at the center of all kinds of problems. It's a self-correcting, self-humbling ego. Do you get this? Now what has this ego done? One continent flattened cities, raised new civilizations, any of these? No. What has it done? It is continuously seeing itself. That's what inner education is. All the other businesses can be left to the organism. The organism is very much capable of taking care of all kinds of businesses. Yeah. Inner education is not meant to get into this or that. Sir, what should be the trade policy of our country? This is a stupid question to ask. As long as the ego is the trader, even surplus would be deficit. Do you get this? I'll have to impress this repeatedly, because for most of us, spirituality is a particular area, a particular sector, a genre, right? It's got to do with some object. No, please leave the objects alone. You, the system, not you, the entity. You, the system, not you, the entity, knows very well how to deal and cope with the universe. The universe is a larger system, you are a subsystem within the larger system, and these two are anyway already in agreement. Otherwise, the smaller system, the subsystem, couldn't have arisen. So the smaller system needs no defensive posture against the larger system. The drop does not need to guard itself against the ocean. The wave does not need to have a foreign policy against the sea. When the child is born, the entire planet is gifted to him by virtue of his birth. All the right conditions are already created before the child inhales for the first time. The little system is already in the lap of the larger system. Is the ego needed? How does the ego justify its existence? It tells the smaller system, you are besieged. If I am not there, you'll be finished. And the ego is such a trickster, because it's not the smaller system it actually seeks to protect. In the name of protecting the smaller system, the ego actually protects itself. The ego is not the friend of the organism. If you are the organism, the ego is not your friend. The ego is neither its own friend, nor is it friend of the organism whose body it identifies with. The ego sits within you as I. First of all, the ego is its own enemy. The proof is it is always suffering. Then, because it sits within your body, so it keeps telling this organism, this system, this embodied mechanism that I am here to defend you, protect you, advance you. This big, bad, ugly world is out to tear you apart. You know, it's a dangerous universe. But I am your well-wisher, and I am your actually the only well-wisher. So it's lying to the organism. It's lying to the organism. The ego is not its own friend, neither is it the friend of the organism. See what ego does to the body. See what the ego does to the body. Go to the jungle. Do animals fall sick this often? Do they? And we are very new entrants on this existential stage. Homo sapiens have just recently appeared. Think of this humble lizard, or the turtle, or the crocodile, or even the cockroach, and millions of other species of insects. They have been here for far longer, and they never had a healthcare system. First of all, the ego necessitates healthcare systems, and then it creates very broken kind of healthcare systems, even if they belong to the richest country of the planet. You know, the weight of all human beings put on one side is nothing compared to the weight of just insects put on the other side. So many insects, you don't even see them. So tiny, yet there are so many. No mediclaim. Nothing at all. How are the little buggers making it? Additionally, they won't destroy the planet for all other species. Not only have they survived for themselves, their survival is actually good for the planet itself. Remove human beings, and the planet switches to party mode. Remove insects, and the planet immediately collapses. The difference?
Ego.
They are simple people. That's all. We are complex. Complex shapes in the sky intersecting each other. And they have intersected each other so much that the mess is now irretrievable. How to solve this equation now? Cut the finger. That's the only way. As long as this is there, it will keep doing this and keep creating problems where there are none. Do you get this? Don't get me wrong. But it's a bit like being a child. Being childlike. Being animal-like. Not advising you to walk on all fours. Not sure what can come out of. Somebody wagging his tail. Seen those half a dozen dogs outside BS gate? Some of them came to attend the sessions. And then they dropped ego and became animal-like. Their parents and spouses are suing the foundation. It's about retaining the innocence to wonder. It's about not giving up on your right to be stupid. So much in Prakriti would appear so stupid, would it not? Man finds everything stupid. Look at how condescending we are towards all other life forms. We call them stupid. The rabbit is stupid because it slept. The tortoise is stupid because it's slow. Show me one thing in the universe that is not stupid to the ego. Therefore, everything needs to be corrected. And who will correct that? I will go and develop that jungle. Because the jungle stands undeveloped. The jungle was developed and has been developed since millions of years before your birth. And you have the guts to call the jungle undeveloped? And all these destroyers call themselves developers. Being without the ego is about reclaiming the right to remain undeveloped. No, I don't want to develop the forest. I also don't want to develop my face. I don't want to develop a relationship. I won't want to develop a business. I don't develop a rose flower, do I? My job is to just not pluck the rose. It will develop. If it has to. If it doesn't have to, it won't. The universe knows better. I withdraw. That's inner education. I withdraw. I don't have to be the policeman or the thief all the time, alternating between these two uniforms, these two labels. Sometimes I am out to enforce law and order because I am the policeman. And sometimes I am out to steal and violate the law because I am the thief. These are the two roles we all take up, don't we? Don't we? Somebody reports to you in the office, you are the policeman. You return from the office and now you are alone in your room. Now you are the thief. All the suppressed tendencies, they just jump out and start dancing. Because now you're no more wearing the police uniform. And what emerges from below the uniform is the thief. Inner education is about resigning from both the roles. And in resigning from both the roles, you actually find that the world is a safer place. You look at the word used here. Lok sangraham eva api. Even the world actually gets better when the ego is no more there and action is desireless. So Arjun is being told, continue engagement with Prakriti for the sake of the world. More accurately, when you are not there, the entire universe celebrates. What's preferable? A greatly trained and vigilant police force, or simply the absence of the thief? Great locks or the removal of the necessity to lock your door? The ego is such a trickster. First of all, it creates the need for locks and then becomes the lock manufacturer and then awards itself for great R&D in lock making. Do you get this? And therefore you see who would be the biggest enemy of the ego. The one who displays that the lockmaker and the thief are one. That lock making is not the solution at all. The ego will enjoy competitors. If there are other lock making agencies as rivals, that's not a problem. If newer kinds of locks are needed and currently the technology is not there, that too can be taken in one stride, and the ego will say, fine, we'll try harder and make better locks. Everything is fine. What the ego would absolutely hate is the removal of the need to have locks. Now you see why Lokdharm hates Advait. Lokdharm can tolerate anything, just about anything. It does preach virtue, does it not? It does preach tolerance, does it not? So Lokdharm would tolerate a few things, many things. But one thing it can never tolerate: non-duality. Because now the very need for the lockmaker is gone. When you sometimes meet unreasonable resistance from those you want to bring to the Gita, you must know why. Has it happened with you? An otherwise nice and decent individual just flares up when you mention Gita Samagam to him. Has it happened? Very unreasonable kind of reaction, even retaliation. Now you know why. It's not unreasonable. It's not unjustified. The ego has sensed a deep threat. Therefore, for itself, its reaction is justified. And you will think, but I just sent him a small video clip. Why is he smoldering? Actually, why has he just blasted off? You could have sent him anything and he would have happily engaged with it, or at least tolerated it. What the ego cannot tolerate is the non-dual truth. And what is the non-dual truth? You are responsible. You are responsible for whatever muck you are in. The reacting party would not obviously, honestly tell you why the sharp reaction came. To rationalize the reaction, the party might say, oh, I'm angry because in the name of Gita, they are asking for donations. Or I'm angry because this person speaks in an abrasive tone. So they will quote some reason, but that is not the real reason. The real reason is truth. The real reason is the video or the text or whatever you shared had truth. And that is what is making that person so defensive, then even so offensive. That's all. The reaction is not coming from ignorance. Rather, the reaction is coming from a clear threat perception. The lockmaker has seen that somebody knows that he is the thief. Obviously, the lockmaker will be very annoyed and afraid. So when you get those reactions from people, do not buy their reasons. They'll give you reasons. They'll say we don't have time, or we have already read the Gita, or whatever. We hate the face of this person or something. Some reason they will quote. They are lying. The real reason is different. The real reason is you may not know what is happening in these sessions, but that person has sensed it, sniffed it better than you. You are here because maybe till now you have not had the wits to sense the threat that this place is. And he is angry and reacting because he probably is more alert than you. He has sensed it ahead of you that there is a threat here. And a lot of people in the course are here not because they really love the sessions, but because they are not sharp enough even to know what this course is going to do to them. They are neither sharp enough to know, nor are they sincere enough to let it happen quickly. If they were sincere enough, it would happen quickly and then they will know. But they are neither sharp. If they were sincere, it would happen quickly. If they were sharp, then they could forecast easily. They are neither letting it happen right away, nor are they able to forecast what is in store. So they are happily chugging along. One session a month, half an exam every quarter. He just fell asleep in the middle. So that's fine then, The foundation calls you up 6-7 times and you say, okay, fine, it is a matter of just a few hundred rupees. That's fine, I can afford that, no issues. This dimwit does not even know that this place is a slaughterhouse for the ego. He believes it is subscription to some public park that he is paying for every month. You have subscribed to a slaughterhouse. But most of us are so dumb that they will still continue. In spite of this open and very public admission. Have we not already told?
Yes.
Yes. Those who don't enter, your friends, your family, they are sharper than you. They know the threat. They are seasoned thieves. You are just, novice pickpockets kind of entry-level rascals. So you hardly know anything. But your Tauji knows what's happening here. He will not come. Do you get this? Next time, don't be surprised. Instead, smile. When they quote their reasons for not coming in. Look into their eyes and smile. The reasons they are offering are all made up. The real reason is something else. How would it feel if I tell you that those who drop out are actually smarter than you? Let life be. Let life be. Life is intelligence itself. And the ego can at most be intellectual. Let intelligence operate. And intelligence can operate only when you are not. Life has its own intelligence. Your interference is not warranted. Think of yourself not as a person, but as a process, a system. A small and open system. A small and open system. A small and open system in the lap of a much larger system. So you are safe. Don't worry. You are safe because you are not. Even if the drop gets broken, it still remains in the ocean. What can be a greater safety? Please tell me. Even if you are absolutely broken, you don't go anywhere. And learn to be grateful for just being. Not because gratitude is a virtue, but because the ego hates gratitude. When the ego is not, even gratitude is not needed. Can you really do something in particular about it if tomorrow morning you wake up and are blind in one eye? And it's possible. Or is there some inspector general of the universe you would go and complain to? It can happen, but it does not happen. I'm talking of this gratitude only because the ego wants to tell you that you are forever being assaulted. The ego does not want you to remember that you are also forever being supported. Remember, you are continuously being supported. You eat something, some random thing, it becomes body. What if that random thing stops becoming the body? Can you do something about it? You can't. But it's happening. Look at the eyes. You look at something and there is the system. You perceive something. Huh? The waves travel. Then they become signals. And then there is this brain. And you didn't teach the brain how to decode the signal, did you? But all of it happens. And it makes sense. If the eyes perceive an object here, it is exactly here that the skin will touch something. What if there is a dissonance? The eyes are saying there is something here, but the hand goes right through it. Such a beautifully coordinated system you have. Learn to be grateful. For simple things, very simple things. Think of the humble headache. So many times you just sleep with the headache, knowing fully well you will wake up all fine, right? Think, what if the headache persists? What will you do about it? What if you wake up and the headache is still there? What if you take 100 pills and the headache is still there? But just when you were sleeping, the system was healing you. The system was taking care of you when you were fast asleep. Learn to be grateful. Do you get this? Practice being absent. That is the definition of faith. Practice your own absence. And see how beautifully life unfolds in your absence. Watch kids and animals instead of your role models. They have much more and better things to teach. A dog, a rabbit, a bird. Watching them will teach you far more than watching one of those business podcasts. The morning or the evening. If you are lucky, watch these birds, their flocks, waking up and then returning to their trees. Watch rivers. Life does not have to be productive. And that does not mean that life must be handed over to the ego so that it can waste it away. No. For the ego, it is either production time or personal time, right? So when I'm saying life does not necessarily have to be productive, that does not mean that you have to give yourself personal time. No. I'm talking of absent time. Time in which there is neither production nor the person. It's all right. You haven't committed an existential offense. It's interesting, The foundation I tell people around me to enter slowly in my space, gently, because I do not get to go to the usual kind of places people go to relax. In January, I wanted to go to Kerala. Instead, I was given an itinerary. Then February, I said, now last week I'll go to the hills. So these were the days I was supposed to be in there. And I had been actually begging for just 1 week since long, but didn't get it. But I didn't mind it too much. I create my vacation within me, micro vacations. I know they will not allow me to get away. So I just vacate myself whenever I can. That's my vacation. Vacate myself. And that can happen anytime. And in those moments, it looks I'm sitting on a chair or driving the vehicle or just standing somewhere. But I'm not there. The body is, but I'm not there. I've very quietly taken leave. That is my meditation. That is my little secret samadhi, to put it in the classical way. But because I do not wear saffron and I do not declare that right now I am sitting for meditation, so these people don't understand. They feel I am sitting on a normal chair. Therefore, I must be normal and present as usual. So they just barge in. They intrude. They shake me up. They ask me to return. Whereas that's my moment of vacation. I am on leave. And that's the way I sustain myself, because 24 hours I know I'm not going to get any leaves. So in between, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, every 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, I steal for myself. I just disappear from within. But I still look normal, because that's the way it must be. Inner education is not about anything particular or fantastic to do with Prakriti, right? Prakriti continues in its own way. So I might still be writing, eyes might still be open, or I might be driving. And all that is happening very intelligently. without the ego. But because all that is happening, so they feel I'm there. And so they would just suddenly rock me. Shake me up. And I'm gone. It's like being asleep and woken up with a shock. Do you get this? The point is not to tell you of the shock. The point is to tell you of the possibility of being here and yet not being here. And you need no special place or occasion or dress or mantra or ritual or anything for that. I just slip away anytime. In fact, sometimes I slip away in the middle of a conversation. What I don't like is that they don't sense it. They should be able to sense it. That he's gone. The body is there, but he's not here. Let him be. At least this much vacation he must be allowed to have. But even this much vacation they won't give. And then when you are very unwillingly forced to return, how do you return? Ask him. You return with a temper. Who woke me up? And then very innocently they say, but you were already awake. No, I was not. The same thing happens in the sessions also. The sessions are the most beautiful when I have left. But then somebody would create some noise, or the audio department would ensure that something is booming somewhere, or somebody would speak out of turn needlessly, and all that requires one to return. And when one returns, that takes something away from the session, because now the intellect has returned. And whether or not one likes it, the intellect calculates. Now the session would lose its expansive quality. Now the session will have a direction, and that's the worst thing that can happen. Now the session will have a purpose, and that reduces the session. Now the speaker will know what he is saying, and that will diminish the saying. The sessions are at their best when the speaker does not know what he is saying. But if you indulge in some random mischief, the ego is forced to return. Forced to return as the policeman, for example, because now the thief has appeared. And the thief, by his appearance, is summoning the policeman. So the policeman will come, and that will. We talk of magic and miracles. There is no other miracle possible but this, to be and yet not be. Fools will think that you are, and yet you are gone. Isn't it great? To be here in the session and yet be on a Goa beach. And that is the right interpretation of all the stories where you hear that a particular sage transported himself or teleported himself. You hear so many stories. There is nothing physical there. Laws of Prakriti cannot be violated. The body cannot be at two places at once. It simply means that the body does not need the ego. It's as basic as that. The body, and we are not talking of being absent-minded here. We are talking of being absent here. There is a great difference. The mind can function beautifully even without the ego. So you don't need to be absent-minded. In fact, if you are absent-minded, you are very egoic. You need to be absent. And when you are absent, the mind is at its best. But that requires faith. You could say that requires love. Now, do you know why the sages slipped away? Because samadhi is a very delicate thing. And it pains a lot when it is interrupted. That would also give you the right interpretation of the stories where you have a rishi in dhyan and somebody comes and disturbs him. And what does he do? Yes. Yes. He curses him. Now that's what the curse is about. How are you so stupid that you could not see an empty house? Do you keep knocking at an empty house? The dweller is not there. But you are so stupid. You kept banging the door and forced the dweller to return. And now you will be cursed for deep stupidity. So again, nothing metaphysical about it. The rishis had to be there so that they are with people who are sensitive enough, who do not disturb their samadhi. Because that's the greatest inner pleasure. That's what is joy, anand. To be and yet not be. You do not want to be with idiots who do not detect when the fellow is out. Do you get this? That's how you must also choose your company. If you are with someone who is already wise have the decency to not interrupt their meditation. And if you have a choice to make, choose someone who would teach you how to vacate yourself. That's how you can choose a worthy friend, companion, partner, whatever. Ask yourself, can I afford to not be in this person's company? Does he encourage and facilitate that? And if he does, he's good. On the contrary, if in the company of someone you are forced to be, he threatens or tempts or arouses or excites, then that's the opposite of meditation. And that's the company you should avoid. Are you getting it? Now, since it has come to this, you also know why you often see me angry on stage. Because I just can't get it how you are so insensitive that you don't allow me to be without being. You think the anger is because of miscellaneous reasons? No, it is because of meditative reasons. It's a very fine, very delicate thing. That's why the sages never spoke to crowds, never to auditoriums of thousands of people, never. Even one face in the crowd, sleeping or smirking, is enough to disrupt the very tender beat. It's like the heartbeat of a baby. You can disrupt it whenever you want to do. Don't I say that when it comes to your life, the truth is not all powerful. It's rather an infant in your arms. You have to nurse it. You have to protect it. One single person snoring, falling off is enough. Love has been violated. Now there would be a transaction. Where there is no love, there are transactions. And for the transaction, the ego will have to return. The speaker is standing naked, laying out his heart, and somebody is snoozing at the back. Love violated. Now the ego returns, and you will now see an angry face. What kind of heartlessness allows you to doze off in the middle of this? And then you are surprised when you find me flaring up. I flare up at the injustice. Look what I am bringing to you. And look what you are doing in return. Is that just? That's what the anger is about. The anger is not about any harm you are bringing to me. The anger is about the harm you are bringing to you. You have just no idea what I am bringing here. And you need it. And you are still occupied in your usual mischief. That's what the anger is about. And now I cannot be loving. I'll have to be the transactions manager. And that is not love. And that makes me angry. It could have been love. You reduced it to a transaction. Just asking you if it is possible for me, at least occasionally, to conduct an entire session without being. How is it not possible for you to conduct your life without being? Please tell me. That's what the example of the king, Janak and all refers to. It is possible to conduct an entire empire without being. I find it interesting. Some newcomers to the community, they try to crack my code. They say, we listened to 5 or 10 recordings, and this is the algorithm AP's mind is following. They say now we know where his words are coming from. There is a pattern, there is an algorithm. Even I do not know where the words are coming from. It is very interesting if you have cracked where the words are coming from. I'll give you another secret. I just don't like listening to what I have said after it has been said. It is some kind of violation. It happened in a sacred moment. I do not want to go back to it. That defiles it. But again, even the team does not understand that. Just today, where is Prasad? Just today, he asked me, did you like our editing of the play? The recent video? And with a straight face, I just said, no, I haven't seen the final video. Most probably he didn't get it. I will deliberately never see. I will not go back to it. I do not like reading my books. In fact, I get irritated when I am forced to watch a video for some reason. Because it's a thing of another dimension and it must remain there. It arose spontaneously in a moment. Ideally, it should not even have been captured or recorded. Ideally. But the first impertinence is to record it, and the second one would be to revisit it. I can write a book, but I do not like reading my transcripts, though I am forced to. You know what reading a transcript would mean? Making intellect the auditor of the intelligence. Because who would be reading now? The ego, the intellect. And the ego is reading the transcript to audit it. So the intellect has become the auditor of intelligence, which is not right. What came in the moment of that loving intelligence must be allowed to be, remain as it was. Don't meddle with it. Don't audit it. Don't edit it. Even if it is crude, let it remain in its childishly crude way. Don't polish it. But then the requirement of the work is that it is required to be polished. Something is edited, some frame is chosen, some words are trimmed, some graphics are overlaid. None of that should actually happen. If you have recorded it, at least publish it exactly in the raw form. But that's not what the mission allows me. If I do that, you will not be here. You all came here because you watched neatly polished, trimmed, pedicured, manicured short videos. Background music, this, that, and all of that was a defilement. All of that was violation. All of that was some kind of a rape. But that's what has brought you here, so I tolerate being raped. Actually, the sessions should never be declared in advance. That's not the way of Prakriti. Even if a loose date and a broad setting is known in advance, at least the topic should never be pre-decided. You take away the spontaneity. This is not the way of love. This is the way of a business deal. We meet at such a place, at such a time, for such a purpose. That's how you plan out business meets, right? But that's also how you meet me, which is fine. There is no other way of meeting you. There has not been a single session when I have not been annoyed, even ashamed while walking into the podium. It's only later when I vacate and the thing starts flowing that it becomes bearable. Otherwise, I know that this is not the way. Every time there is the session, I start feeling irritated hours in advance. Often I just sleep for half an hour to forget it all. I was sleeping today also. By trying to ensure and guarantee something for yourself, you block the possibility of something much bigger coming to you. By making it necessary that it has to be Bhagavad Gita 3.20 tonight, you do not know what you have prevented from coming to you. Though then I try to give that happening the root of BG 3.20. I say fine, it will be BG 3.20. As the shell. As the shell. They have scared you so much, you find it very difficult to leave. Don't worry, leave. The system will do very well in your absence. In between, you can return and check. And assure yourself. And that will enable you to leave more frequently and for longer periods. That's all that there is, nothing else. There are no worlds to attain, no riches to pocket, no vices to drop. It is about this simple thing, being without being. But I see you are afraid, very afraid. And that's the blockage. It was in Kachi Dham. So that's a place near Nainital. So the camp was on a hill. It was a little forested. You would have seen a few videos from there. In fact, we conducted no less than 10 or 15 camps there. So there are many videos. So it was the rainy season. and there are these leeches there. What do they do? So I was in a session, and because those sessions were less structured, less organized, so time was never a concern. That one might have lasted 3 or 4 hours or something, aimlessly wandering from here to there. The session, I was sitting on my chair, and the session kept meandering. And it was when I got up that I realized that my footwear was full of blood. So full of blood that the blood was actually creating a bit of a splashing sound as I took a few steps. So full of blood. Full of blood and overflowing. So the blood was there on this. I'm not pointing at a miracle or something. I'm not saying if somebody comes and hacks your leg into two, you won't notice it even then. No, I'm not saying that. The body has its own intelligence. It knows how much it can take and how much it cannot. But the ego cannot take anything. The ego would have started shouting at the mere sight of blood. The body knew that it is nothing. You are a healthy young man. Even if you lose 100, 200 ml, that doesn't mean anything. So the body didn't even warn me. The ego would have shouted. The body has its own intelligence. The body refused to raise an alarm. The body refused to raise an alarm, and the ego was not there. So there was nobody to interrupt. It just kept happening smoothly. It is possible to not be and yet coolly go through the affairs of life. So probably from the same camp I was returning on my bike, or some other camp maybe. Monsoons, mountain roads, slippery. I slipped. I fell. And only a little later I realized I'm still singing a bhajan. Because that was the bhajan we closed the camp with. We closed the camp with that bhajan, and I was riding the bike and crooning it. And the bhajan continued. It was at good speed that I fell. Right, I fell, the bike actually slipped to a certain distance, at least a few meters. But because it was getting dark and raining, so I was wearing a few layers, so the body wasn't hurt. And for a few seconds I am lying on the road and still. And then I get up and still. Then I go to the bike, pick it up, see whether it's all right, get back on it, and again get on with the journey. And then, after a few seconds or minutes, I realize I have been singing throughout. The ego won't allow that. The ego would raise an alarm. The ego would say, "What is this bhajan and all? Stop. There is a medical emergency." No. You can deal with all the emergencies of life while remaining absent. You get this?
Pranam Acharya Ji. As you said in the sessions that the sessions are the best when you are not present. As a listener, do we have to follow the same? If yes, then how will we, understand that we are our problems in our life is this, and we understand that we are lacking here in understanding the problem.
Does the ego understand or does it block understanding?
Creates confusion.
The mud is saying, if I am washed off, who will protect the face? All these distortions that you create are works of the ego. I say something and you hear something else. Who distorted? Will the ego facilitate understanding? Understanding happens when you are just sitting without any agenda, any purpose. In an environment of open reception. If simultaneously your inner machinery is active, then you are just working against yourself. And when that happens, often it is visible on the face. The one who is listening has an openness in the eyes and on the face. Again, almost a childlike openness. And when the ego is hearing, then the face is like this. My trouble is, I can see that. And that makes me angry. You cannot read your face. Unfortunately, I can. So I know the listener. I know when it is the ego catching my words only to distort them. Just the presence of such a person in the audience is enough to bring down the quality of the discourse. Because a love affair cannot proceed in the presence of strangers. There has to be a great intimacy. Somebody who is listening from his insecurity, or somebody who is listening to test, or somebody who is listening just to pass time and get the opportunity of asking a question. I repeat, the whole affair is very delicate. It's like stepping into the room of a sleeping person. Even the voice that Anupam had just now was a shock. It was a stranger. These things are not meant for strangers, I repeat. This is inner nakedness. This is real intimacy. Love proceeds through whispers. It's not there on your face, I'm sorry.
Acharya Ji, as we discussed in the session, practice being absence of your own. But mostly it happens during the session spontaneously when I'm not trying, or even in conversation when I'm not trying. It's very spontaneous. And hours and sometimes days also pass, and like time ka pata nahi chalta. It happened without efforts. So and one more thing, like before coming in session we feel heaviness, but after that I'll feel light. I don't know where all bondages are gone, but when it's gone, after that I crave for it, but it not happen when I try for it.
Why are you reading?
Sorry.
You could have simply stood up and shed a tear. That would have been far better, no? You spoiled it all by reading. Just as he spoiled it by asking, should we close it now? Seen one of those pesky guards of public gardens. Evening is falling. Lovers are in embrace. And exactly at this moment, this one comes and says, it's time to close. That kind of insensitivity, that level of insensitivity, we should close the session now.
Acharya Ji, one question regarding the session. You said in between ki we are somewhere between sharp, matlab, some those people who we met outside or just tell about ki join Gita session, and they are sharp and we are a little, let's just say for a moment, stupid.
Only for a moment.
We are stupid. But Acharya Ji, I've been listening to you for 3 years and now I am here at Gita community from the last 8 months only. And now I find a cunningness in me that maybe what took 2.5 years to come into the Gita sessions. And now when I'm in the Gita sessions, I'm, as you said, ki if you would have been very, let's just for a moment say ki if I would have been free, the magic would have happened eventually. And I mean, it would have not taken that much time, which could be the case. Maybe the 3 years would actually the magic itself. But I continuously see, I came to Bodhsthal previously before the Shivratri session. I met few people and they were like good experienced here for like 2.5 years. So I just felt one thing ki what is it? I mean, is it some sort of cunningness also staying here and being of that very slow progress? And is it not something very terrifying among all of us? Someone is there who is staying, and at the name of staying he's just convincing himself maybe that he's on some right track. And why is it not happening? I personally keep seeing you and I have thousands of questions in my head, and it 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 actually do some work. But then what is it that it is not happening? That urgency I feel in myself, and it is something, but continuously to see even me at this position, and when I see all this and things outside, it just, and especially about the community. I mean, let's just for a moment, because we are sitting here, especially about the community and all this, if it is such a spontaneous thing, why does it take so long, and who is it? I mean, please have a little light on it.
If I could change it, I would do that right now. I cannot. You're not pawns that I control. You're not my toys. It's a very limited interface you have with me. You have your life, your priorities, so many things.
What if I just say for a moment ki whatever I see, I just keep on hitting that, but still I find myself, it's just like want to burn more and still face, like my diaries are just filled of this ki I want to burn, I want to burn, I want to burn, and I am burning. It's not like that, but
You are writing all that on wet paper. This urgency that you are displaying, that too is fickle. That is of this moment, this field, this place, this occasion. And you should know that. You also know that you can't be permanently physically on that chair. Therefore, if the urgency is a function of this field, it should be honestly obvious to you to carry this field wherever you go. As simple as that. But you are one person right now, you would be another one little later. You don't remain, and it's not that you are dishonest right now, just that you will be unable to hold on. That's the problem. You are good, you are sincere right now, but you won't remain this way. Of all the fellows who are ejected from the community every month, so many have their DPs with them standing next to me. This fellow would have queued up in some book signing event, waited for me, walked up to me, shook hands, or probably even hugged me. And then he comes and abuses. Was he being dishonest in the moment of the hug? No. Just that you have other things. You will not be the same person. Outside this little hall and that gate, you would be somebody else. And because it happens so quickly, honestly, you should be able to see the flip and wonder at it. How quickly it happens. In fact, the moment you will look at your mobile phone, all this angst would be lost. You would be back to your ways. Of all the people who fill up the form and apply to come to a live session, around 15-20% don't turn up. But when they do, they display utmost respect and love. Are they being insincere in that moment? In that moment, no. But they won't remain that way. They would grow insincere to the extent that they won't even turn up. But had they turned up, the field would have rendered them sincere. If you do turn up, the field would render you sincere. But since it's about the field, the moment you leave the field, you are back to yourself. Your sadhana must be to hold on to what you are right now. But you will allow this to slip away. Moment I do this and get up and walk out, you will return. The universe will change for you. And that's a pity because that's not necessary. You could have avoided that. I don't exercise that choice. And how do I help that? The choice is yours. It would be very interesting, we have cameras here. Let's say all these cameras, if they point at the audience and you are given footage of how your eyes and your face change the moment I get up and walk away, you'll be astonished. Even your voice will change. You will be a different person. We get a large number of threatening emails, even legal notices from community participants. Many of them, those who had professed great admiration while sitting here, then they go back and send hatred. The problem is not the hate that you send. The problem is that you change. We can take the hate. The hate is not a problem. The problem is that you don't remain who you are right now. It's a simple exercise. You can sense how you are right now. Just compare the fall every hour after departing from here. Just compare. You know how you are at midnight. See how you would be at 1 a.m., then 2 a.m., and then you will sleep and you will wake up at 7 a.m., and then see how you are at 7 a.m., and you will see what is happening. And it's a choice. You'll have to be at war against the fall. Hmm? It's like you have been gifted something here, and it's very tenderly balanced. It's at the mercy of gravity. It can fall any moment, any direction. Your practice is to not let it fall. As you return here, each one of you, you will return with something here. Something here very insecure, very unstable. It has been put here, but it's ready to fall off any moment, any direction. So your practice is to not let it fall.
As you said, truth is an infant in your arm. And
You'll have to be vigilant like a mother. It's not just an infant, it's a very diseased infant. just somehow born. The world had done everything to abort the birth. Still, somehow, it did get born. But it is weak, small and weak and tender. And you return with that. And before 15 minutes, you let it die. Just download the Acharya Prashant app, and there you go to the community section, and you have live testimonials streaming in at the rate of 1 every 5 minutes. I'm seeing lives change in thousands, if not millions, every day in front of my own eyes. We are doing it.
Right.
We have actually done it.
Join the community of more than 2 lakh participants on the Acharya Prashant app. Your first month is completely free. You'll get full access to Gita Mission. On the app, you will get regular live sessions, daily exclusive conversations with Acharya Prashant, access to the vibrant Gita community, wisdom exams, curated news, audiobooks, quotes, and much more. Search Acharya Prashant on Google Play Store or Apple App Store and download now.